Ladies and gentlemen, hit subscribe to this channel right now. In a couple of seconds, you will hear from former and future President Donald Trump. He has the money. He has the $500 million bond. Whether or not he has $500 million in cash is irrelevant. He only needs to put, I think, $20 million down, something around $18 to $20 million down, which, by the way, he won't get back, even with the bond. So he has the money. I've been telling you for a long time, this is theater. This helps former and future President Donald Trump, and it hurts Democrats. But again, some people lack wisdom and are too caught up in trying to tear down Trump to realize what's going on. Hit subscribe to this channel right now, ladies and gentlemen. Trump claims he has the $500 million in cash, undercutting lawyers' claim on bond money. He has the money. So he just, Nicholas, hello. To my viewers in Australia and around the world, hello. He has the money, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to hear from legal scholars. You're going to hear from Alina Habba, Trump's beautiful and talented and very intelligent and very capable lawyer. And you'll hear from President Trump himself in a couple of seconds, but I'll explain to you in about 30 seconds what's going on. And hit subscribe if you want to read my writing in The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, other publications. Go to hagoodman.com. My Patreon link will be below. For people who are new to the channel, if you want to support my work long term, this is what's taking place. The man has the money. Don't think that he doesn't have access to $500 million. He has $3.2 billion in property, golf courses, resorts, hotels, casinos. He might not have the actual $500 million, or maybe he does, but he's not going to immediately hand over hundreds of millions of dollars because of a politically motivated partisan judgment against him, where New York Democrats are doing exactly what they claim Trump embodies. They are acting like despots, totalitarians, authoritarians. They're going after the direct political rivals, and they think it's just fine. And so he's not going to, no smart, intelligent businessman is just going to hand over hundreds of millions of dollars, especially when he can create this saga, this soap opera. Now people actually feel sorry for Trump, or I should say sympathize or empathize with him. Every American knows what it's like to owe money. Everybody in the world knows what it's like to owe money. Now people can empathize with Trump. They can say, okay, I know how that feels. This is the exact opposite. It's the antithesis of what Democrats actually wanted. Democrats want to harm Trump politically. They've only helped him, okay? You'd have to be a complete imbecile to think that Trump didn't have access in some way, shape, or form to the $500 million bond. Again, he only needs about $18 to $20 million in cash, I believe, to get that bond, which he won't get back, which is also a travesty. Hit subscribe to this channel. Let's listen to some legal analysis right here from three very, very knowledgeable individuals.
Looking at it from the outside in, it feels pretty awkward. I couldn't follow it day by day, but the notion that Deutsche Bank had the wool pulled over their eyes and some of the most sophisticated banks out there were somehow fooled by President Trump, former President Trump, it just seems far-fetched.
Oh, it is. I mean, I think this case, Charles, you're right, was always legally unsound. Letitia James ran on the campaign promise to get Trump before she had access to files or evidence. And then when she took office and found no wrongdoing, what did she do? She dusts off this oddball consumer protection statute, contorts the facts, and suddenly claims fraud, even though at trial it was shown that nobody was defrauded and no consumers were harmed. In fact, the lending banks were more than happy to give Trump the money. They made enormous profits. Trump isn't the one who inflated the value of assets. No, he hired what business people do, outside real estate experts, respected accountants, top lawyers. They arrived at independent estimates, and the banks, they did their own due diligence. What did they find? That Trump had more than enough to secure the loans.
It's important to note that nobody was deceived. He did not commit fraud. Categorically, he did not. Under the New York legal statute that has never been used before, you can be accused of this crime without a bank or institution or individual having been a victim. Okay, how absurd is that? The banks made money. They actually made money and wanted to do business with Trump again and testified that they were not deceived. Yet he still lost the case because it's purely politically motivated. Again, you'd have to be a complete fool not to realize that Democrats in New York and around the country have utilized the courts against their political opponent, which is exactly what they accused Trump of doing, which he hasn't done, unfortunately.
So this judgment also completely undermines established common law, which requires proof of intent to deceive. There was none. And Goron, the judge, and the attorney general simply tossed that out the window. And they also violated the Constitution, penalizing incorrect commercial speech, which the First Amendment protects. You know, I think the bias of Judge Goron was on full display every day. Arrogant, smug, hostile, self-righteous. And I think he was obtuse when it comes to the law. I do not see this judgment against Trump surviving judicial scrutiny on appeal.
Yeah, he certainly was lapping up the limelight for sure. Pam, I'm going to ask you, because Greg brought up some of the things that are mentioned here in the summary, and one that caught my attention was the line that says lenders required personal guarantees from Donald Trump, which were based on statements of financial conditions that were compiled by accountants that Donald Trump engaged. Again, so Donald Trump hired accountants. They went through his financials. They put a stamp of approval on it. Then they gave it to banks who did their own due diligence. And here we are at $350 million. Again, I'm not sure how we got to this point.
Charles, we don't. And when the banks do their own valuation, even if you tried to say his accountants couldn't be objective, there's no way they get to that number. Not even close. And Mar-a-Lago, of course, is valued at way more than $18 million. That's a joke. Everything they did is ridiculous. It will 100% be reversed. They all know it's going to be reversed. All they have is a short-term goal of getting Donald Trump. They're trying to bankrupt him. They're trying to ruin him. They're trying to ruin his sons and his business in New York. And the only reason they didn't do the lifetime ban, which they wanted to do, is they're trying to act like they're reasonable, and they are not, and it will be reversed on appeal. But they don't care.
Now, so, Greg, walk us through that appeal process. When does it begin? How long does it normally take? Obviously, it would be a lot longer until the elections will have come and gone by then.
Well, I mean, Trump knew where this was going. For goodness sakes, the judge ruled he committed fraud before there was even a trial. And then, of course, sort of backfired because the banks took the stand and said, we weren't defrauded. He was a whale. We wanted to do more business. We made so much money from him. So
there was nobody that lost money with Trump. Okay, not so with Whitewater, Bill and Hillary. You could look at the businesses of Hunter and Joe and ask, what are these businesses about? It's clear bribery and graft on the board of directors of an energy company. For what purpose? You don't even speak the language. And so you can look at how Democrats make money. So when Democrats are forced to actually own a business, a lot of times, Joe, Hunter, Bill, Hillary, it doesn't work out as well as it does for Trump. Trump knows how to make money from casinos and hotels and resorts. He uses cameos in movies. I mean, the man knows how to make money. That's the one thing. See, Democrats are fighting a losing battle, okay? They're trying to convince people now that Trump is a penniless, terrible businessman. Just like they tried to convince people that Biden's economy isn't riddled with inflation and high interest rates and other problems. Just like they don't care about what's taking place in the southern geographic region of our country, which is a monumental national security threat and also human rights catastrophe. An epic, a terrible, biblical, monumental human rights catastrophe and also national security debacle. What Democrats have done in the past 4 years, it's unbelievable how clueless people are when they vote. You vote for Democrats. You're so there's a lack of wisdom where everything they complained about Trump is infinitely worse under Biden, and yet they look the other way because you're talking about an actual cult and cultists there. Hit subscribe if you're new.
But they could see where Engoron was going, so they have been working diligently for weeks, if not months, on their appeals.
Right.
So it'll be filed first with the appellate court above, and then eventually perhaps the New York highest court, which is actually not called the Supreme Court. It's a little different here. But look, most of the judges and justices are not, Republicans or conservatives. So it's going to be tough going. In the end, you can always try to appeal federally as well on constitutional grounds that I cited in my first remarks here. Sure. So, this is going to be a very long process. In the meantime, there are going to be a stay of some of this. He'll have to post a bond for the judgment, a portion of it, but it's going to be a long appellate process.
In this long process, Pam, and taking all the legal issues together, many are saying now the law is simply being used as a weapon, a political weapon, against the former president. Explain to the audience just how egregious this might be.
Well, Charles, it is. And remember, when Letitia James ran for Attorney General multiple times, she campaigned on getting Donald Trump. There's video after video after video of her out there campaigning on saying she was going to put him out of business. So to have the highest state law enforcement officer in New York do that should really frighten everyone. Every business in New York should be very fearful right now, because if they're going after Donald Trump, they can go after anyone. That should
So, if you are in New York and you have, let's say, hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate, and or are friends with Trump, how long will it be before New York Democrats utilize a statute that's never been utilized against you? I mean, they don't realize that if you go after Trump just because you want to prove that he isn't wealthy, it's not going to work out well. Okay, they have actually made Donald Trump more of an empathetic individual, sympathetic individual. Okay, people can relate to Trump more because of the New York Attorney General. Okay, I don't know if Democrats or morally superior liberals understand this. And to my viewers in the UK and everywhere else, and Nicholas Orme in Australia, and Paul Bartlett in Australia, and everybody, thank you so very, very much. Cyan, hello. New York Democrats are making Trump more of a sympathetic political individual, okay? Sympathetic politician. The thing with Trump is that people couldn't relate to Trump. Now they can, okay? Everybody's gotten a parking ticket, not a $500 million parking ticket, but everyone has had to pay a fine at one point in their life. Trump has to pay a $500 million fine when there was no victims. Nobody lost money. And then they say, well, he inflated the values. That's not for a bureaucrat in any city to to claim, to make that statement. It's for the banks. The banks would have had to initiate. See, when Michael Cohen, for example, was convicted of criminal behavior, the banks actually found that his business transactions were problematic. And so the banks, there was a record. Same with Hunter and Joe. There are like 120, something like that, financial transactions deemed problematic by banks in this country with Hunter and Joe. Literally over 100 different decisions by banking institutions working with Hunter and Joe that said, yeah, this money, who knows where it comes from. And they deemed those transactions, those financial transactions, as potentially criminal or problematic. And so with Trump, you didn't get that. So Democrats get away with infinitely more because they have the media narrative. They have favorable courts in major cities. And, and that's why you have newspapers around the country and publications around the country going under. And I don't want people to lose their jobs. But why would you read one publication over another if they're all saying the same things? If they're all saying that Trump is bad, Democrats are good, why pick the Washington Post or New York Times over the Los Angeles Times or vice versa? Why would you pick Vice over BuzzFeed? And now both are no longer around from a political sense. They're saying the same things. Why would you read Rolling Stone as opposed to Vanity Fair or Esquire? They're saying the same exact things about Trump all the time. So, I mean, it's like, it's the same thing all the time. But let's listen to former President Trump and future President Trump right now. Actually, we'll listen to the beautiful and talented and extremely awesome Alina Habba.
Good afternoon. Let's remember that before I walked into court, we had already lost. That was clear with his motion for summary judgment. Before witnesses, before experts, and do I think any of it mattered? I certainly hope so, but for anybody that was in the courtroom for the last 11 weeks, you heard that there was not one fact against President Trump. There was not one piece of paper that showed anyone committed fraud. And don't forget that Section 6312, a consumer fraud statute, has been wrongfully used against my client, innocent defendants, the organization, and every employee of the Trump Organization, which has single-handedly changed the New York skyline, including the building we are in today. These are special properties. Real estate is an art, not a science. But you know what else is an art? You know what else isn't a science? Political motivated individuals. She's using this to paint a canvas that Donald Trump is a fraudster because they can't beat him in the polls. They can't beat him in the polls, so she ran on Trump because that was the only way she could win. And now, today, after 11 weeks, after 3 years, we have concluded that he indeed committed no wrong. The Trump Organization committed no wrong, and the kids have been dragged in just like the other defendants, and it is wrong. America needs to step up, and there's only one person who can do that, my client, Donald Trump.
Could you imagine, ladies and gentlemen, could you imagine if, for example, they went after Democrats in the same manner they went after Trump? Let's go ahead and listen to Mr. Wonderful.
Roads have brought us to Mr. Wonderful this morning. It's good to see you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
All right. So part of the judgment here, it's not just the dollar amount. Donald Trump is barred from operating a business in New York for 3 years. One of my questions is, all right, let's say this all stands 3 years down the line. Why on earth would he want to come back here to do business after this?
Well, this case really isn't just about Donald Trump. This is an assault on the 11th sector of the S&P 500, which is real estate. step back and think about what this means for the state of New York. Development of real estate creates millions of jobs in America. And once the buildings are stabilized and rented out or used for commercial real estate or whatever, they generate cash flow and they're put into REITs. And you and I invest in those, retirees invest in them, and that's how they get income. That's why it became the 11th sector of the S&P. It's so important to the American economy. Very few sectors generate as much cash as this does. And so if you're a developer, you're an entrepreneur, you go to a bank and you say, look, I want to borrow $200 million to build a building. And they say, well, what assets do you have we can secure this loan against? And you point to a building you built before. And you haggle and you argue about the value of that building. This goes on in every city on earth. That's how real estate developers who are entrepreneurs and take risk borrow money. That's exactly what happened here. Now, all of a sudden, after this is built successfully and finished, for some reason, this judge takes it upon himself to fine this developer. Forget that it's Trump. This is not about Trump anymore. If you're a developer and you see this happen in the state of New York, why would you take the risk to put up this much money and have a judge arbitrarily decide that you are in some form of breach of fraud when no damages occurred at all? And this is the same process that occurs everywhere. This is about the competition of states. I thought before this judgment that the #1 loser state in America was California, which is basically putting itself out of business slowly and surely. But after this judgment, I'm going to make New York the #1 loser state, followed by California, then Massachusetts, New Jersey, Michigan. These are places where taxes are not competitive. Delaware, for example, is now.
You're going to be taxed at a very high rate, or much higher rate. And so not only do you pay more taxes in New York or other blue states or blue cities, but you're then going to be singled out politically if, for example, you do business with Trump, or you're a millionaire or billionaire and you like Trump. If you like Democrats, no problem, okay? But with Trump, it's purely politically motivated. Again, you'd have to be a fool. You'd have to be a complete and utter imbecile not to believe or not to see. You don't have to believe it. It's apparent. The facts are there. The reality, to comprehend the reality that Democrats are going after Trump in a purely partisan manner, in the same way that despots, totalitarians, and authoritarians go after their political opponents. Again, a lot of the people who say Trump is a despot don't really know much about history. Most despots and tyrants have virtual control of media, which is what Democrats have. They have control of intel agencies, law enforcement, federal law enforcement, the Democrats have. And so, I mean, and then they go after the direct political rivals and try to imprison them, which is what Democrats are doing with Trump. So how are Democrats not the actual totalitarians that they claim Trump will eventually be?
On the loser state list because it's unstable policy on the Elon Musk decision. You don't have to put your money into places where this kind of thing happens. Each of us as investors, we vote with our capital. Why punish a great state because it doesn't happen to be on the east or west coast? I say go to Florida, go to Texas, go to North Dakota, Oklahoma, West Virginia. These are winner states. Why go to a loser state like New York?
Well, I think a lot of people are doing precisely that, not just with their businesses, but with their families as well. Kevin, we were quoting yesterday, the Associated Press said they could not find another case like this in 70 years under this law, the application of this law in New York. Have you ever seen anything like we just witnessed from this judge and this AG?
No, I never have. And frankly, what's occurred all around the world with developers look at this and don't understand why this complaint was brought forward in the first place.
So Mark Cuban, for example, who is very close to Kevin O'Leary, the show Shark Tank. And so Mark Cuban said, oh, well, he made a reference to Trump. He was trying to defend Trump somewhat, I guess. But he made a reference. He's voting for Biden. He made a reference to Trump inflating his businesses or his properties. So does that logic, let's say, for example, Mark Cuban, who knows more about finance and the economy than I do. He's a billionaire, and he made pretty amazing stock picks years and years back. But if somebody wanted to buy the Dallas Mavericks, and a whole bunch of people, and then a whole bunch of publications, and a whole bunch of quote unquote experts said the Dallas Mavericks are worth X amount of dollars, and that happened to be 500 million lower than what Mark Cuban would ever think about selling the Dallas Mavericks for. Does that mean Mark Cuban committed fraud? Of course not. You don't have to. If you appraise your business or your real estate in the manner that you want to, and then if you can get a loan, or if the banks agree, if others are willing to pay the money, that's fine in terms of within a capitalist society. Mark Cuban will never probably sell the Dallas Mavericks anyway, but if he ever does, he's certainly not going to sell the Dallas Mavericks for the dollar amount that a judge in New York decides upon. So, I mean, for him to say that Trump inflated his net worth based on what? A partisan ruling in New York? I mean, it's like, meanwhile, you have clear and bribery and graft that the New York Post, these journalists deserve the Pulitzer Prize. Literal emails asking for, how can you use your influence on the company's behalf? And then they say, well, there's no evidence that Hunter and Joe committed graft and bribery. It's like, the evidence is right there. You had financial transactions deemed inappropriate by banks. You have suspicious activity reports, over 120 or so, regarding Hunter and Joe. How many with Trump? How about zero?
And my own opinion is that this will be overturned eventually somewhere. It has to be, because this is so damaging to business in New York. I mean, this stands up on the... If it did stand up, it would basically tell you as an investor to avoid this jurisdiction because of the unstable policy. It's wrong in every way. I don't know how an arbitrary amount of $355 million was assigned to this, or why you'd ban this particular developer from developing for 3 years. Forget about the Trump factor. It's not about that. What does this say to everybody that wants to do work in New York, that wants to risk capital? I mean, it's a huge mistake. And this judge arbitrarily deciding that this is the right amount, I don't understand it. No developer does.
So there's really no logic. There's no logic at all. What took place was purely politically motivated. Okay? And you should see, like, you could look. We're at almost 224,000 subscribers. We'll get to 230 and then 300,000 very soon. We'll probably get to 300,000 subscribers before November. But ladies and gentlemen, there are million subs to 5 million sub channels. You can go and look at them. Trump, his empire's crumbling. He's petrified. Trump, he's penniless. Oh, Trump, he's going to be homeless. Donald Trump living on the streets. Oh, yay. And it's like, and then, you know, they have these, let's see if I could find this. There's this one article, it's written in such a funny way. Oh my God. Hold on. Here is the prototypical. Here's the prototypical article. So this is American media at its finest. Okay? This is American media, and this is CNN today. Trump is about to get $3 billion richer after deal is approved to take his company public. But it won't solve his cash crunch. It says that he's getting $3 billion richer. Do you understand? Do you understand, ladies and gentlemen? Do you understand how absurd all of this is? I mean, you might as well have a headline, you know, man gets to go on date with entire Hawaiian Tropic model team, but can he afford the dinner? It's like, what? You're missing the entire story. It's amazing that he's even able to go out with them for a dinner. So it's like Trump is about to get $3 billion richer, and that's it. End the title there. They can't live or deal with reality. The reality is the man's always making money. It's like, you know, man wins lottery. Well, this sometimes wins lottery, but, you know, taxes could be an issue. It's like, so what? He's won the lottery. I mean, it's, you know, it's they'll make any headline into some kind of negative for Trump. And it's so hilarious, but it won't solve his cash crunch. Well, okay. You know, he just got $3 billion. We talked about this. It's actually $4 billion. Okay? But the Truth Social merger, he got $4 billion. $3 to $4 billion, could be $11 billion. And they're jumping for joy because Trump can't get the $500 million, they say. So they're trying so desperately to make Trump into this penniless individual who's a terrible businessman, and he keeps proving them wrong. See, if you don't like Trump's personality, just leave it at that. Don't try your best in life to take him down, because the opposite will take place. The issue with Democrats and Trump is that they have focused so much on image and personality and issues that aren't important, that the economy and foreign policy, which is why Trump will win again, they don't focus on. This is a huge victory from the Supreme Court, and he talks about the New York case as well. But I told you the Supreme Court will give Trump a huge victory, would give Trump a huge victory in Colorado. And not only that, ladies and gentlemen, they're going to give him a huge victory with immunity. I should be back at 10 p.m. Eastern also, ladies and gentlemen, tonight. But check this out.
Nice to see you all. That's nice. I just finished watching the Supreme Court. It's a beautiful thing to watch in many respects. It's unfortunate that we have to go through a thing like that. I consider it to be more election interference by the Democrats. That's what they're doing. The good news is we're leading virtually every poll. We're leading I don't even know if we have anymore. I'm not sure that we even have a Republican candidate, somebody running, but not making any impact. So as you know, we won Iowa, we won New Hampshire in records, each one a record. We think we're going to do very well. I'm heading out right now to Nevada for the caucus and the caucuses, and I think we're going to do very well there. All polls indicate we're in the 90s, maybe more than the 90s. We certainly did well in a primary that didn't matter. They voted very nicely. And we have tremendous support from the people of our country. They hate what's happening at the border. They hate what's happening just generally. We're not a respected country anymore. We're laughed at all over the world. They're laughing at us. And they hate what's happening. They hate seeing it. They love our country. They want it to come back. And we're going to do that. If you think about it, had the results of the election been different, that'd be nice. You wouldn't have the Ukrainian situation with Russia. You wouldn't have had.
Why are you not investing?
Iran, and now you have a very rich Iran. Iran was broke when I left. They had no money to give to Hamas. So you have a very rich group of countries. And as you know, Iraq should have never happened. That was a balance against Iran. Absolutely the worst president in the history of our country. Can't put two sentences together. He's not going to be able to negotiate with Putin or Xi or Kim Jong-un, North Korea. Not going to be able to negotiate with anybody. All he knows how to do is drop bombs all over the place, meaningless bombs, except they kill a lot of people. Supreme Court today, I thought it's a very beautiful process. I hope that democracy in this country will continue. Because right now we have a very, very tough situation with all of the radical left ideas, with the weaponization of politics. They weaponize it like it's never been weaponized before. It's totally illegal, but they do it anyway. And it has to stop. Every one of the court cases that I'm involved, every single one, civil, whether it's the attorney generals or the district attorneys. You look at Fani in Georgia. They had many meetings with the White House and with the DOJ. They went there, 8-hour meetings. That was all staged. That was a phony hoax. And now you look at it and it is a phony hoax. And hopefully that case will be dismissed in short order. It's a disgrace to this country. But they work together with the Justice Department and the White House. And you're not supposed to do that. Every one of these cases you see comes out of the White House. It comes out of Biden. It's election interference, and it's really very sad. I thought the presentation today was a very good one. I think it was well received. I hope it was well received. You have millions of people that are out there wanting to vote, and they happen to want to vote for me or the Republican Party, whatever you want to, however you want to phrase it. But I'm the one running, and we are leading in every poll. We're leading in the local polls, in the state polls, and we're leading in the swing state polls, and we're leading very big in the national polls. So it's been a very great honor. We love the country. I think the reason we have such big leads, frankly, is that they loved 4 years of us compared to the 3 years plus the 3 years that they've gone with Biden, where you have open borders, you have crime. Nobody's ever seen crime like this, what's happening. And now the crime is being committed, much of it by the migrants that have come in. They have to close the border. By the way, the Mar-a-Lago, I hope you like it. It's worth a little more than $18 million. There's another case. It says worth $18 million. I said, which cabin are we talking about? But that's the kind of,
So they did a fact check on Trump's claim about the judge using the $18 million number, which Trump was 100% right about. The judge decided to use a local tax assessment that's claimed the Mar-a-Lago was $18 million. Okay, so that local tax assessment in no way, shape, or form correlates to what Mar-a-Lago would sell if it were sold on the open market. It would be hundreds of millions of dollars. It wouldn't be $18 million. Then they say, Trump, false. Judge never decided that it was 18 million. The 18 million was found from a tax assessment. He didn't have to use that number. Again, the judge or the Democrats in New York did not have to use that number. They decided to use that number to be deceptive. Like nothing that you've heard about Trump, if you're just new to this channel, you're on the fence, or even on the left. I say this with respect and all humility. Almost nothing that's been reported about Trump has been accurate. Everything that's been reported about Trump since 2016 has been a lie by omission in some way, shape, or form. While Democrats actively, and activists in media who claim to be journalists, actively try to suppress, through lies by omission, the truth about Democrats. I mean, it's like they care so much about lying, but they actually lie infinitely more than Trump about far more grandiose topics, like servers. Can you imagine if Trump had private servers? Can you imagine if Trump had a laptop with incriminating evidence against him? I mean, just reverse the stories and see what would happen. Like, if Trump had one day in the shoes of the average Democrat, he would already have been in prison for a long time.
The kind of justice we have when they say that to try and build up a case. That was a shame. But they gave up so much. When they said that, they gave up so much that Mar-a-Lago's worth $18 million. They had it appraised for, as you know, 50 to 100 times that amount. But we have a judge that's what he said. And he's supposed to be ruling on me. But who knows? Maybe he'll be fair. I doubt it, but maybe he'll be fair. So I want to thank everybody. And by the way, we proved that case 100%, 5 times over. That case is 100% proven, 5 times over. We've never seen anything like it. He just wouldn't dismiss it, no matter what. Shouldn't it be there? It should have been in the commercial division. Anyway, it's an honor to have you. I look forward to having you again, and I'll probably see you out in Nevada. Thank you very much.
The U.S. Supreme Court is said to be broadly skeptical in early reporting about the effort to try and kick you off the ballot. Having said that, though, speak to the argument, legal and otherwise, that your detractors have made leading up to the day. And it's an argument that was given voice by Mitch McConnell, the Senate Republican leader, not long.
All right, I got the gist.
There's no question
I got the gist.
President Trump is practically and morally responsible for provoking the events of the day.
He doesn't say that anymore. So let me just tell you that I heard and I watched. And the one thing I'll say is they kept saying about what I said right after the insurrection. Because I think it was an insurrection caused by Nancy Pelosi. This was an insurrection.
So Democrats aren't winning the media spin, the propaganda battle. They're not really winning it. They just have more outlets and more publications to communicate their vantage point. Nobody really believes, like most Americans, 70% of Americans do not trust media. Okay? And if you're watching MSNBC, CNN, you're reading the Washington Post, New York Times, you're doing so because what you're reading bolsters your worldview. These are liberal Democrats writing to liberal Democrats who are reading this. And so there used to be a time when the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, maybe not always, CNN used to be more conservative in the early 2000s, a lot more. Okay, they slither to the predominant political ideology, okay? You're going to see media slowly moving away from Democrats because this moment in time, Democrats had the past 3, 4, 5 years, probably 6 years, since Trump, they've had a foothold on media narrative, foothold within the media narrative, okay? That won't always happen. That won't always be the case. You'll have Trump, you'll have more of a conservative viewpoint in media. Then, Lord knows what happens with the Democratic Party. They had social media algorithms. That's slowly not the case anymore, especially with Twitter. They had FTX crypto money. That's not the case anymore. Okay, obviously. You have all of these publications, Vice, BuzzFeed, the Washington Post, Los Angeles Times. I don't want anyone to lose their job. I'm not happy people have lost their jobs, but that's what takes place when you only focus on how terrible Trump is and try your best to prop up and defend the Democratic Party through news. Okay? Publications are are cutting staff because of their apoplectic obsession against Trump. Okay? Where's the one Trump supporter? Where's that one person? Where's that one person at the Washington Post or New York Times? Where's the one Trump supporter, the writer? Where's that one person? Or the Los Angeles Times? Where was the one person at Vice or BuzzFeed who supported Trump? How about that person doesn't exist? Where's the one writer at the Atlantic or the New Yorker or the Rolling Stone that likes Trump? How about that person doesn't exist? Because they don't employ anyone who would give a favorable view of Donald Trump, which is going to lead to further job cuts. All you have to do, if you are the next publication that has to lay off staff, is put a Trump supporter, a person voting for Trump, on the staff, have them write articles, op-eds, investigative journalism against Democrats. Maybe, exposing the rampant corruption within the Democratic Party. And then you'd get readers. You'd get a greater readership. You'd get a greater audience. But they don't do that. And Trump's going to outlast all of them. And that person, everyone has a family member or friend who's disowned them because you voted Trump. Everyone has that one person they know at Thanksgiving lunch or dinner or, New Year's Eve who ruins everything because of their apoplectic, hysterical obsession against Trump. That person is not going to be ruining many Thanksgivings anymore because there's nothing really to... People are gravitating towards Trump. You have musicians, you have celebrities. They're all moving. It's going to be cool and the in thing and fashionable and vogue to vote for Trump. And all those people who disown you will actually have to deal with another Trump presidency. And every single day of Trump's second presidency will be confirmation of just how wrong they were. Hit subscribe, everybody. I love you. Nicholas Orm, everybody here. Hello, Earl. Everybody here. To Nicholas and to Paul in Australia, and my viewers in Australia, the Philippines, around the world. Sweden, Nepal, Canada, UK. Thank you so very, very much. God bless you all. I should be here tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern. I'm not 100% sure. I usually do 2 live streams a day. I've been doing 1 live stream a day lately. But hit subscribe. I'll definitely be back tomorrow. I should be back tonight. God bless you all. Trump has the bond. It's all in the news now. And the soap opera continues with Trump being the protagonist and Democrats, of course, being the people trying to tear down an innocent human being. Give me your thoughts below. Hit